One live.
I'm Yair Pinto, coming to you live from Israel, giving you an update on the war between the Jewish state and the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is a live report on TBN Israel. Iran is collapsing like a house of cards, but we must not succumb to complacency. Waves of strikes in Tehran struck the Iranian capital. The Revolutionary Guard's internal security HQ in Iran was also destroyed. And on the verge of intervention, the United States is sending a third aircraft carrier to this region after Donald Trump claimed that Iran offered to come to the White House, and Tehran replied that never happened. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your boots on the ground live report on all that's happening in Israel, and this is day 6 of Israel's preemptive offensive against Iran. This is Operation Am Kelavi, and with me today is Mati Shoshani, who, by the way, has a birthday today. Happy birthday, Mati.
Thank you, Yael. I'm just realizing I forgot to put on my mic.
Minor stuff when you go live. But
Yeah,
maybe
what's a mic between friends.
I hope that the Iranians or the Houthis will not give you some firework for your birthday today. But let's run through the headlines of this update. So following a powerful Israeli Air Force strike on nuclear and weapons sites in Tehran, the Iranian regime is dealt a heavy blow and loses its top brass. Khamenei secludes himself and Trump hesitates, and the whole world is on edge. Is this the end of the Ayatollah? This is the end of the Ayatollah regime or the start of a full-on regional war? The United States is sending another carrier to the area, the USS Gerald Ford, and is expected to come to Europe next week and then will edge towards the Middle East amidst the war with Iran. CNN quoted one United States official and 2 others that informed sources saying that this is the second United States carrier moving closer to this region. The Israeli Air Force has destroyed 3 more attack helicopters at a military base in Karmashaha, western Iran. And now, with the help of our senior correspondent, Mati Shoshani, celebrating his birthday today, I will say that a lot during the show, guys. Just be ready for that. We'll dive into the Middle East telenovela of Iran and the United States. Khamenei to the United States: we will never surrender. If you strike, the consequences will be irreversible. The Iranian Supreme Leader answers Donald Trump, who yesterday demanded unconditional surrender. And in a Tehran speech, Khamenei said, "We will accept no peace or war imposed on us. We will not forget the blood of the martyrs. Israel made a grave mistake and will be punished." And Trump replied, "In Iran, they offered to come to the White House. I demand unconditional surrender. I've had enough." United States President Donald Trump claimed that Iran approached him and offered to come to the White House for negotiations. "I can't say if the United States will strike Iran. They have many problems. They want to negotiate." This is according to the United States President Donald Trump. "It's too late," he said. "There's a difference between now and a week ago. I don't know how long it will take. They're totally defenseless. They have no air defenses." Trump added on Iran, "I've had enough. I want unconditional surrender." And asked about a possible United States strike, he said, "I might bomb, I might not." And added that the Iranians approached him. He told them it's too late to talk. And Iran rejected Trump's claims, stating that no one asked to come to the White House. And meanwhile, Russia sends a sharp message to Washington: do not give military aid. Don't even think about it. Look, today we'll try to understand why Hezbollah, the terrorist organization in Lebanon, is sitting on the sidelines and the Houthis are barely firing. All Iran's proxies are not intervening. After nearly a week of war, the weakened Lebanese organization contents itself with statements and condemnations, and the Yemeni rebels threatened but hardly launched any missiles at Israel or at all. Iran-backed militias in Iraq are also having difficulties after being pushed out of Syria with Assad's fall. Could things change when the United States enters the fray? Let me know in the comments. So, a state TV in Tehran wants to resume broadcasting, but employees fear for their lives, and Revolutionary Guards unit were posted at the state broadcast complex after the Israeli strike. Though the regime vows that the channel will return, staff avoid going back for safety reasons. Israel also hits the Tehran Stock Exchange market. The exchange has not opened since the week's start and is suspended at least until Sunday over fears of a market collapse in the face of the clash with Israel. All of this while the Tel Aviv exchange flourishes and a cyber attack on Iran's largest banks, the Israeli link, and the damage to the gas stations. So much lies ahead, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what's happening in Israel, and this is day 620 of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the militias in Iraq, the Palestinian terrorist organizations in Judea and Samaria, that all of them are taking their orders from Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps. And with me today is our senior Middle East correspondent, Mati Shoshani. And 1 second before we start, Mati, I ask you and want to tell you a happy birthday, and make sure you guys leave some wishes in the comments. I would sing, Mati, but my wife said there's no way you're singing in front of 1 million people live. So I got to know on that.
I would have appreciated the gesture. Yeah, you have a lovely voice. don't listen to your wife.
So, Mati, let me know.
The senior correspondent became a little more senior this just today.
So, Mati, do you think that the Iranians will give you a birthday fireworks show tonight or not?
Yes. Yeah. They actually already have. It's what is it? 11. It's almost 10 past 11 in Israel. And an hour ago, the Iranians had a drone knocked down in the Golan Heights. So they already have attacked today, and they probably will again. They've tried multiple times in recent days. But what's important to note is that the attacks are getting weaker and weaker. I think that's really the big story here. Let's be honest here. 4 days ago, 5 days ago, I don't think anyone in the world could have expected what we're experiencing today. Not a single person. We're in a place where we were debating how long we were going to spend in bunkers. I think both you and I were talking about if we need to spend a week, if we need to spend 2 weeks, etc. We're at a point now where 4 days into the attack, well, Israel is dominating the skies of Iran. Israeli planes are flying, without any disturbance, unchallenged in the skies of Iran across their capital, Tehran, and multiple other sites around the country. And this is something that was, I don't want to say it was completely unforeseen, but no one was expecting it to be this successful. Possibly the people planning this in the Israeli Air Force command centers, but not most of us in the public. So it's already been an exciting week. And the trend that we're watching right now is a drastically diminished response by the Iranians. Israeli fighter jets and tankers are flying freely, uninhibited in the skies of Iran. And here we are in Israel. Look, we're 4 days in. The last 24 hours, they've barely been able to launch missiles into Israel. And the reason is, of course, and we'll get to this in depth, is we've been able to dramatically decrease their number of launchers by having planes in the air all the time over Iran. And every time a launcher, peeks its head up, a missile comes and knocks it out. So they've lost
or a drone, or a drone that we actually were able to import into Iran and have like a little drone factory or drone shop inside the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think, and I know we love going into the news and all the details and stuff like that, but I think it's important that we share the spirit that people are feeling in Israel today and the emotion. We're elated. People in Israel are happy beyond expectation. They feel a sense of incredible relief and also incredible level of pride. Last night when we were doing the live, we played an interview that you recorded with my brother, my younger brother. By the way, if people didn't know that, Nadav Shoshani, it doesn't just share a family name, we also share parents. That's why I was joking about the connection between us. But the point here being is that we've been playing defense on a public relations level, on a diplomatic level, even having to explain our own need to self-defend ourselves against an enemy that's trying to kill us. But the last couple of days, everything's changed on that level. And everyone around the world is looking at this. And I think it takes us back to the days of 1973, the Yom Kippur War, where all the nations of the world or the Arab world rise up against us. And in a matter of a handful of days, the Israeli army sort of flips the whole thing over and becomes unbelievably victorious against multiple armies. Here we are again. People are watching this and they're sharing the footage from around the world. Social media in Arabic is dominated by visuals of Israeli fighter jets flying over the skies of Iraq on their way to Iran, of Iranians sitting in their porches and on their rooftops and filming videos of Israeli fighter jets flying over, people mocking their government for not being able to stop the Israeli jets, not be able to stop the drones. Again, this has dominated the story. And we're suddenly like someone who everyone from around the world is looking at and saying, how on earth did this happen? And I want to add one more thought here. The answer isn't money. And I think that's important to note. The Iranians are spending considerably more on defense and on, attacking Israel than we do on an annual basis, considerably more. They have a much larger population. The Arab nations that rise up against us, they have a lot more money and deeper pockets than we do and less enemies than we do. And yet with a small budget, and with a group of incredibly creative, and I have to say, very, very gutsy people, men and women, Israel was able to do the unimaginable in Iran. I feel a sense of pride and relief. I think the fact that we're talking tonight about Iranians being forced into a negotiation with the claims of U.S. President Trump saying they have to do with absolutely no preconditions going into the negotiation. Who saw this coming? What an amazing time to be alive in.
Yeah, definitely, Mati. And 1 second before we dive into the reporting and all the details of what happened in the last 24 hours, guys, I want to ask you, and you know what I'm going to ask, to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground, and also help us reach more people with the truth of what is happening in Israel. This war is being fought on multiple fronts. We have the actual physical front, we have the war for the truth that we're sadly losing, and we need your help in that front. And we have the spiritual front, and we call on you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Okay, let's start. The Air Force struck today the Iranian regime's internal security HQ in Tehran. Defense Minister Israel Katz revealed that tornado storm keeps pounding Tehran, and Israeli Air Force jets destroyed the dictator's central arm of repression. Katz added, as we promised, we'll keep hitting the symbols of rule and strike the Ayatollah regime everywhere. Strikes on regime targets in Iran raise hope amongst the opposition activists yearning for the theocracy's collapse and for Iran's return to secular rule. Today, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, announced that information it receives indicates that Israel hit 2 facilities producing centrifuges and their components, one at a research center in Tehran and another at a site in Karaj. At Tehran, a building where rotors for advanced centrifuges were produced and tested was hit. At Karaj, 2 buildings making various centrifuge parts were destroyed. Centrifuge, that we recall, are the spinning devices used to enrich uranium, the main material needed to produce a nuclear bomb. Since October and since Operation Am Kilavi began, the Israeli Air Force tankers have flown dozens of sorties over the Middle East and performed more than 600 aerial refuelings of fighter jets. The IDF spokesperson released first-hand footage explaining refueling is essential to the Israeli Air Force activity in Iran. It lets us maintain the air superiority. Today's Israeli Air Force order of battle, these are the sites that were attacked. Are you guys ready? Early morning, about 25 fighter jets struck more than 40 missile infrastructures in western Iran. I'm talking about launch sites aimed at Israel, missile storage facilities, and regime combatants. And overnight, jets hit an Imad missile launcher loaded and ready to be fired at Israeli civilians. According to reports, the Israeli Air Force is now operating near Zanjan in the west. And a short time ago, jets identified and hit 3 Iranian Cobra attack helicopters at a base near Kermanashahar. These helicopters were meant to strike the Israeli Air Force aircrafts over Iran. This is according to the IDF. And earlier this morning, the spokesperson, Brigadier General Efi Dafrin, stated that Israel has attacked over 1,100 items to date, and that 5 AH-1 attack helicopters at the same base were destroyed. The IDF spokesperson issued a statement in Persian to Iran's citizens: contact the Mossad. Again, contact the Mossad. In an unusual tweet, he wrote, "Dear citizens of Iran, we understand your distress under the harsh conditions that the regime forces you into. In recent days, we've received many messages from worried citizens, even those who identify as regime security personnel, that expressed fear, despair, and anger over what is happening. The least that we can do is direct you via this link to the Mossad website. Perhaps you'll find a new way to improve your situation." And meanwhile, Israel is striking Revolutionary Guards bases and offices in Tehran, and the Iranian Defense Ministry was also hit. And parallel to the Tehran strikes, there was a report of an attack in Karaj, Iran's communications ministry. It stated that temporary limits on users of the internet across Iran have been imposed due to the enemy's misuse of the communications network for military purposes. So, Mati, our Air Force seems to be extremely busy, especially over the skies of Iran, but also in Gaza, in Lebanon, and other places. And we're seeing strikes on several planes, on military, on governmental, and on other areas in Iran, also on networks and on infrastructure. So what do you think of the IDF strategy in this first week of this war?
One, I think it's been very, very impressive, and it's been incredibly meticulous. But as we're looking back at the last 4 days of bombing missions, the Israeli Air Force clearly had a very, very well-planned and well-executed program for how they're going to attack this. And it wasn't just the Israeli Air Force, it was the Israeli Air Force together with the Mossad and together with swarms of drones. And here's how this went. First, you deny communications. So they went in and they knocked out SAM sites, anti-aircraft batteries, radar systems, communication hubs. Then, at the same time, essentially, the Israeli Air Force, and this is sort of where people lost part of the story, it wasn't just that the Air Force immediately gained air superiority. It was that the Israeli Air Force immediately eliminated everyone who's involved in calling the shots when it has to do with defending the skies and the nation of Iran. And that's part of the reason that we gained air superiority so incredibly fast. So in other words, the Israeli Air Force went in, it knocked out a bunch of sites that have to do with air defense. It had a huge amount of drones go fly and assassinate high-uppers in the Iranian government, leaders in the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, leaders within the Iranian army, and the chief scientist within the nuclear program of Iran. And what this did is, one, it demoralized them, but two, again, when we talked about this almost every night, it prevented them from taking action in the way they've planned to do in the past. Because when you have a battle plan, and the battle plan says, well, the executive does this, and the second in command does that if he's gone, but what if number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all eliminated at once? There's no one to make the decision. So it was a compounding effect of intelligence, targeted assassinations, which is something we've done unbelievably effectively in Iran at the moment. And the third part is a massive airstrike that came wave after wave after wave. And I think the interesting part here, which I dare say the Iranians didn't factor in when they were talking about this, is how much airtime the Israeli Air Force can get. And I'll explain that statement. Bringing a jet to Iran is a feat of its own. Israel from the border of Iran is, let's say, starting at, let's say, 1,100, 1,200 miles, but can get a lot farther since Iran is such a large country. And most jets, with their standard configuration, especially with a full load of bombs and fuel, well, they can make the trip back and forth. And most air forces will have air tankers on the way. The Israeli Air Force was able to really utilize the limited number of air tankers that we have to repeatedly fuel these jets in the air time and time again. And I'm guessing I'm not guessing, we know that there's a lot of sort of trickery into the logistical chain of keeping those air tankers full and in the air at the same time. But essentially it allowed Israeli pilots, and I love the footage that's playing right now on the screen, it allowed the pilots to essentially run missions around Iran, fuel off the coast of Iran, come back, do it again and again and again. So continuously we had aircraft in the air. And what that gave was a multiplying factor of the force of the Air Force. And secondly, it allowed an incredibly short response time for the Israeli Air Force, which was very important in eliminating the launchers. And that's how, only a few days into this attack, we no longer have to worry about anti-aircraft batteries and missiles. And secondly, we're able to really focus as an Air Force on the targeted bombings. So first, removing the anti-aircraft systems, the radars, and knocking out all the executives, and then move into systematically bombing all the targets. Where we fall short is we are a light, nimble, and fast Air Force. We don't have strategic bombers. We're not that kind of army that has that sort of logistical depth as other armies do. And because of that, and we'll get to this in a second, when we talk about the U.S. involvement, that's where the U.S. has something that no other army in the world has. It has a logistical depth of ranks that is, is just unparalleled, where they can launch wave after wave after wave of bombers loaded with, bunker busting missiles and other munitions in a way that Israel simply can't do. So a combination of ingenuity and a lot of pilots spending many, many hours in the cockpit.
Yeah, definitely, Mati. What I like about the Israeli strikes is the level of preciseness. Basically, everything is surgical. We hit the terrorist within a window in the building that he's staying without harming the other floors of that building. That's what I like about Israel. That's how we operated in the IDF in the Gaza Strip. That's how we operated in Lebanon. That's how we operated in Yemen. And now that's how we operate in Iran. We do not target the civilians. We let them know before a strike to evacuate that area. I didn't know that we had the IDF officers that speak Farsi. Well, maybe because you are also Persian, then we have multiple
I don't speak any,
Shoshanis in the IDF spokesperson's unit, but I don't think that you and your brother speak Persian. But absolutely, I was shocked that we have someone who can speak that. And it's just amazing that we are letting our enemies know before we strike them to prevent harming the civilian population. So guys, this is the time again that you like. Please hit that subscribe button to help us reach more people with what is happening in Israel. Really, I'm serious. Only 50% of our viewers are subscribers. So if you are watching and you're not a subscriber yet, please hit the subscribe button and help us reach with more people around the world. This helps us reach a lot of people. And guys, if you've been watching the footage that come out of Israel after the Iranian strikes, and I'm talking about the direct hits of missile that launched in Bat Yam, an Israeli city in central Israel, or any other location, you already know it's really, really bad. I've been there today in that location. It's just terrible to see the destruction. This is a destruction that was caused by a direct missile hit into the heart of a civilian neighborhood in central Israel. I'm talking about families that were torn apart, dozens wounded, kids, seniors, people that just came there and wanted to get some sleep. You know who showed up before the dust even settled? Magen David Adom. Medics running into the chaos, helping whoever they can find. No questions, no fear, just action. When everybody's running into the bomb shelter, they run out towards the area of the impact. Some of them get hurt along the way, but they don't stop. And that's the part that gets me. They're all volunteers, and this organization is funded by donations from around the world. Ordinary people, and they're out there risking everything to save lives. But they can't do it without backup, without gear, without ambulances, without supplies, without training. All these things cost money. So if you're sitting there and thinking, what can I do to save lives in Israel? This is your chance. So guys, if you want to help Magen David Adom and save lives in Israel, go to savelifeisrael.com. Again, that's savelifeisrael.com, and help keep Magen David Adom ready, the first responders of Israel. Because next time, whether it's Bat Yam, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, or even maybe someone or somewhere you know, they'll be the first one to help and save lives. And Mati, we forgot to report one of the craziest things that the IDF is doing, and then we can move on to the Middle East diplomacy. Mati, before we dive into a deep analysis of the diplomatic situation with Iran, let's quickly cover today's events. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, delivered his second wartime speech at noon. His first sent signs grew that the United States intends to join the fighting, and it was broadcasted on Iranian TV. He said that the United States must know Iran will never surrender, and any American strike will bring severe, irreversible consequences. His words came after President Donald Trump said yesterday he would accept only Iran's total surrender, and even threatened to assassinate Khamenei. He noted that for now, Washington refrains from joining the attack, but Khamenei answered that those who know Iran's history know Iranians won't respond well to the language of threats. He stressed that Iran would accept no imposed peace or war, and vowed that the nation would not forget the martyrs' blood, and warned Israel made a grave mistake and will be punished. Our armed forces are ready to defend the homeland. And President Trump today declined and to say whether he will aid Israel in strikes or not. He said, I might bomb, I might not bomb. And he claimed that the Iranians tried to renew talks and even offered to come to the White House for negotiations. He responded, it's too late for talk. He repeated that he will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. Iran's United Nations mission blasted Trump's claims, tweeting, Iran never asked to humiliate itself at the White House gates. Iran negotiates under no pressure. Israel officially received a United States message that Iran wants the IDF strikes halted to resume negotiations. From Prime Minister Netanyahu, there is consensus in Israel that the strikes must not stop now. Israeli officials sense divisions inside the United States administration on accepting whatever Iran is offering, but say that Trump is very pleased with Israel's successes and does not want Israel to pause. Trump's rhetoric grew harsher, and he tweeted, everyone must evacuate Tehran immediately. And he left the G7 summit early and flew back to Washington for situation assessment. So Mati Shoshani, let's analyze where this is heading.
That's it. Let's analyze. So look.
Right. Just a little bit stuff.
That's it. I'll only analyze everything that's been happening. Look, we're in a fascinating time. And I think, and I don't say this lightly, I'm a fan of history. I'm a fan of geopolitics and economics. And what's happening now is history in the making on an hourly basis. We're watching time speeding up in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime. And we're watching processes that we didn't think we were going to see so quickly happening almost overnight. And I want to show you the big shift in the moving pieces. One, the U.S. that we were expecting to be part of this, both in an active sense. We've all been sitting and waiting at the edge of our seats for months now for the U.S. to strike in Iran. They never took action. They did pressure the Iranians, but what we do know they did is that the U.S. and Israel were working in very, very close cooperation in a way that was far greater and much tighter than what people imagined or understood, to the degree of the American president and the Israeli prime minister playing off each other in fooling the Iranians and lulling them into a sense of false safety. But it gets more interesting than that. The Iranians themselves, what we're learning here, they're a country that was up here. Let's say they're a 7 out of 10 as a regional power in the Middle East. They've got oil. They've got a large population. They've got education. They have a missile program. They're working on a nuclear program. They're a regional superpower. That country got knocked down the ladder of influence by 3 or 4 rungs in the matter of days, all by a tiny little country called Israel, with a tenth of the population, a small air force, a small army, not much of a navy to speak of, effective navy, but not much of a navy to speak of. And all of this happens in a matter of days. And we find out that this, fierce enemy that we imagined in the Iranians, well, it's a lot less than we imagined. They're clearly more corrupt in the sense that they've misplaced and misused the funds that they were building their army with and their missile program and their defense programs with, and that there's something substantially wrong in the way their economy works and their people work. And then you have the biggest unknown in the room, which is President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump, literally on an hourly basis, changes what the U.S. foreign policy is about the Iran and Israel war. 1 minute it is, we want to have an agreement. We really want to have an agreement.
Exactly.
And the next moment it is, but and this is
how we don't want to have an agreement. Let's not have an agreement. I'm not sure.
And
they passed
possibly
too late.
Assassinating the leader of the country. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. We're not sure yet. So part of this is a negotiation tactic, and that's understandable and expected in the negotiation tactic. But a whole other part of it is the fact that the U.S. actually is unpredictable at this moment, and it could go either which way. And there is a chance that we end this live, we go to bed at a reasonable hour for once. We go to bed, and we wake up. Semi-reasonable. And we wake up in a couple hours to news of the U.S. in mass launching the biggest air raid in modern history. That too is a possibility that is completely on the table even at this moment. So it's again, the number of unknown variables and the speed at which things are changing is dramatic. What we do know is that's really changed is that in the balance of powers in this region, Israel has gone up a lot in just a matter of a few days. And that reshapes our place in negotiating with the Saudis, with the Emiratis, and projecting power to all our neighbors in this region. And it makes every sleeper terrorist group and every quasi-democracy and every country that thought that they'd be able to, build a foreign policy on trying to attack Israel, think once, twice, and a third time about whether or not this is a good idea. And that's exactly where Israel wants to be. We want to be a regional superpower that is feared by our enemies and respected by our allies. And that's the kind of biblical promise we're promised as the nation of Israel. But also that's the outcome of being a country that believes in peace, in Judeo-Christian biblical values, and not in a religion or a doctrine of hatred and anger towards other people.
Yeah, definitely, Mati. But I think that Israel stepped up the ladder in its prestige in the Middle East in the past 620 days. We were actually very low in that ladder before October 7th. We had basically no deterrence. That's why Hamas launched its invasion against us. And after that, we defeated Hamas almost completely. We defeated Hezbollah almost completely, which, by the way, Hezbollah is the crown jewel of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They invested millions and millions. Definitely. Exactly. Now they're not even launching rockets at Israel when Israel is striking in Tehran. They created all of this ring of fire around us so that the battle will take place around Israel and not inside their capital in Tehran. And now what is happening is that the Ayatollah regime is conducting this war from a bunker and actually giving the authority to conduct the war to the IRGC officers, those that are still alive. So this is what's happening now on the ground, and Israel built up its military deterrence in the past 620 days since the war started. And Mati, one thing that Israel, we talked a lot about deception and the cooperation between the United States and Israel and Trump and Netanyahu before the strike took place. Another thing that maybe our viewers do not know is that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu planned a vacation exactly during the time that the Israeli Air Force struck Iran. This is a next level deception of the intelligence agencies of Iran by the Prime Minister of Israel, which we have to give it to him. That was pretty cool.
I mean, me and you were sitting in our studio a bit over a week ago, and we were joking about exactly about that, where there's this, there's pop culture theory that every time the Israeli Prime Minister says he's going on vacation, it's actually an excuse of having a secretive attack against another country. And I think literally it was a week ago we were sitting there, last Wednesday perhaps, and joking exactly about that. Not only that, his son was supposed to get married this week.
Exactly.
And it turns out that the whole thing, the whole discussion, and the Israeli news, of course, because it's the son of the prime minister, it was like so focused on this thing. The whole thing was just a ruse. It was just to get people to divert their attention from what was really happening. And again, this doesn't happen often. And I think we forgot that we're able to do this. We were able to keep hidden from the public a very substantial operation that was underway and keep a secret for, in some of these operations, 5, 6, 7, 10 years, where these things were kept completely secretive, both from the public and from being leaked. And that is in itself a substantial achievement in Israel, where everyone likes to talk about everything and share facts with everyone about everything. So look, very impressive times. Israel's gone up a lot in prestige. Now we need to work hard to maintain that prestige. But we're never looking back at where we were a short time ago. We were a country that I think doubted itself before October 7th, 2023, and our enemies perceived and understood the doubt that we had because of internal conflict, because of losing focus of the story of why we're here. And we're not there again, and we're not going back there again. We're a people with a high level of clarity on why we're here in this world, a high level of clarity on our calling to take action to preserve what was given to us rightly, what was promised to us by God. And we're people that isn't afraid to act on that. And that's something that we didn't have to this degree 2 years ago. And I'd say even this last week, it's really emboldened Israelis to say, guys, nothing is impossible. And I think we're going to reap the fruits of this boldness and this clarity of mind and clarity of vision for many, many years to come in Israeli society, in Israeli science, and in the Israeli military.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Mati. And guys, that you're watching us from all over the world, please keep sending birthday wishes in the comments to Mati Shoshani as he's going out to celebrate his birthday, hopefully not too far away from a bomb shelter, because we're still under the rocket attack. But I'm just joking. Spend some time with your family. I see that you are wearing civilian clothes, so you're not on duty, but you are
not on duty
stand by tonight. So it's really, really amazing. Happy birthday.
Thank you,
Mati.
Thank you, everyone.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Wishes. And guys, we'll stay here together for our next reports. But 1 second before we continue, you have to stay tuned to the truth in real time. So guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button on this YouTube channel. And today's partner for the show is Magen David Adom. Remember I told you about them? They're Israel's first responders. They come to the scenes of the attack and save lives. They treat the wounded. If it's a woman giving birth, if it's a terrorist attack, or whatever it is, they are there first. I've been with them in the ambulances. It takes them 2 minutes to get to a scene. And why is that? Because they are embedded in the civilian population of Israel. Their volunteers are part of the Israeli culture. So they are everywhere in the country. When something is happening, they get a beeper, a text, an announcement, and they get there immediately and save lives. But they need your help. So guys, if you want to help Magen David Adom, go to savelifeisrael.com. Again, that's savelifeisrael.com. Okay, let's continue with the news. For years, so they told us that Iran is a superpower, one that you cannot get into a direct mess with. That's what they told us. and you had to tiptoe around them, around the Islamic Republic of Iran. That wasn't an exaggeration. But at the moment of truth, Tehran has been left without answers and without capabilities. And that moment of truth was 6 days ago. So following the Israeli Air Force strikes on the Iranian Broadcasting Authority building and the Armed Revolutionary Guards forces that were stationed there, and they seized exclusive control over it. Because although the president of the Broadcasting Authority declared that the station would resume broadcasts soon, many employees fear coming into the office because of concern over another Israeli strike like the one that you just saw in the footage here. It was also reported that entry to the compound has been severely restricted to authorized persons only. The opposition newspaper Iran International says that staff reported heightened security checks and a significant armed presence. One crew member described the complex as a restricted zone, requesting anonymity. Sources said that some senior managers and reporters left the building hours before the strike after receiving warning signals. Others, citing security concerns, refused to return. There is deep anxiety amongst the middle managers and the staff, not only about their safety, but also about their livelihoods. This is according to a source that told Iran International, an opposition media group. The extent of the physical damage is still unclear, but sources say that the station's activities have been greatly reduced. Iranian officials condemned the strike as a violation of international law. Even in wartime, communications facilities are protected under the rules of international humanitarian law. This is according to a senior official that told local press, referring to the Geneva Convention, which classifies journalists as civilians so long as they do not take part in hostilities. The president of the Iranian Broadcasting Authority, Peyman Jeblili, vowed that programming would gradually return to air. And despite the damage, he said that our main broadcasts, including the 8:30 news bulletin, will be back. Jebli said in remarks that aired today on Wednesday that the broadcasters will come back to the Iranian television. He himself was apparently present during the strike, but was not harmed. So guys, we will continue to spread all the truth about what is happening in Israel, and you help us by standing with the truth, sharing what's happening, understanding the situation, and praying for the peace of Jerusalem. So let's continue. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, said it currently cannot verify the location of Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium at a level close to what suffices for producing nuclear weapons. Agency Chief Rafael Grossi made the remarks in an interview with Bloomberg amidst Israel's prolonged strikes in Iran, which prevent the IAEA inspectors from doing their work. A number of kilograms of highly enriched uranium, enough for producing 10 nuclear warheads, are supposed to be stored in an underground facility in Isfahan, which is under IAEA supervision. Grossi said today that at this stage it is unclear where that uranium stockpile is, given Iran's warning that it might move its stockpiles elsewhere in case of an Israeli strike. I'm not really sure, Grossi told Bloomberg when asked where Iran's near-bomb-grade uranium stock is located. In times of war, all nuclear safeguards and challenges are shut down. There are no inspectors, and routine activity cannot be carried out. He said that Isfahan has been struck repeatedly and several buildings were hit. Bloomberg reported that until the war, the IAEA inspectors made more than one visit per day to the Islamic Republic's nuclear sites. Grossi said that Iran has not yet informed the agency of special steps that it intends to take to protect its uranium stockpiles from Israeli strikes. We have received no detailed notification about anything. This is according to Grossi, and he stressed that the IAEA does not know what Iran's next move will be. He told Bloomberg that Iran knows its uranium stockpile must be under permanent IAEA supervision. The important nuclear site that Israel did not attack, apparently on purpose, it is not impossible that Israel knew where the stockpile that Grossi spoke of is, but decided not to strike it. And the New York Times reported over the weekend that in the opening blow of the war, Israel did not attack a vast complex outside Isfahan, where Iran's most significant stock of near-bomb-grade nuclear fuel is located. This is one of the largest nuclear sites in Iran, and according to Western intelligence services, the place is one of the secret research centers on the way to the bomb. Even when it struck in Isfahan, the IDF said nothing about hitting the nuclear fuel stockpile. And Israeli officials did not respond to inquiries as to why they spared the stock. For now, at least they didn't attack it. So guys, help us by spreading the truth, share, and follow us. And most importantly, don't forget to pray. Prayer helps. I can tell you firsthand, I've seen so many miracles in this war, and I can feel the peace of God in some terrible situation because of prayer. So let's pray together for our hostages. Let's not forget them. We still have 58 hostages in the Gaza Strip, and around 20 of them are still alive. Let's pray that they will feel safe somehow in this terrible situation, and let's pray that God will bring them back to their families in Israel. Let's pray together for the IDF soldiers that are still operating in Gaza, still operating in Judea and Samaria, in Lebanon, in Syria, in the airs against the Houthis in Yemen and against Iran. This is a lot of fronts to fight at once. Let's pray for them. And most importantly, let's unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem. This is a spiritual war. We need to be united in sharing the truth and in praying for the situation that God will win this war. Thank you so much for joining us live. Thank you for celebrating Mati Shoshani's birthday, and keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem.